having the knowledge about the meaning of life and the nature of life and humans does not equal actually walking the path of transformation and working on yourself. And this is what I want to chat to you guys about today. So if this video found you, maybe it's a sign from your higher self, from your spirit guides, that there's still something that you're ignoring, denying, or maybe trying to bypass. So let me explain a little bit deeper. What do I mean? I see this in so many people around me, sometimes people who try and make an attempt to do the work by coming for a session once or twice a year. Side note, if you actually do want to do the work, the hard actual work, you're in a great place. We talk all about shadow work, transformation, inner change, and the meaning of life here on this channel. So there's so many people who if you would talk to them, you would realize that they will call themselves awakened, they will call themselves spiritual. They did have that moment of realization, of awakening. What is life about? So they would know and understand that we have a consciousness and we have a ego. They would have the understanding that the ego, which is the ego persona, the avatar that the awareness lives through, this experiences this lives through, that we have a body, we have a mind that are mortal, and those have the tendency, if we don't keep them at bay, to go towards fear, to go towards storing traumas, to go towards shadows, because they are pushing ourselves to live this life to the maximum, because they are mortal. It's the nature of the ego, whereas the consciousness understands that it's not about what exactly I'm going to experience, and it's not about how, and it's not about the when. It's about the experience itself, and the soul is sort of relaxed because it is eternal, right? So they will have all the awareness of, the karma and the dharma, and oftentimes there's astrology, and they will follow the full moon, the new moon, right? Sometimes those people will even have some practices, right? So every now and then they will maybe go to yoga, or they will contemplate a little bit. And side note, if you watch me, I explain this to you guys all the time. All spiritual practices are permission slips. They're not mandatory. You don't have to, in order to walk this path, which we call sometimes path of Christ consciousness, to walk towards the embodiment of the wholeness, to connect fully to the divine. You don't have to engage in those practices. They're great, they're helpful, they actually are for the ego to enter a specific state, but they're not something that you must do. Like I said, they are permission slips to help the mortal part of self to get into a state to connect a little bit better to the eternal part of self. So these people will sometimes even engage again in a little bit of meditation, a little bit of contemplation, which is always beneficial and which is always great. But what is lacking is actual accountability and actions, okay? Because spirituality is not just about knowing and realizing the meaning of life, and opening your eyes to your wounds and your shadows that you carry within. It's not only about the capacity of connecting the dots. So, okay, I have this shadow, and I have this wound, and this is where it was brought to life. This is where it was created, through this experience in my early life, in my childhood. I'm connecting the dots, I understand. It's all great. These are all things that must happen and must exist in order for you to actually do the work. But the reason your higher self or your spirit guides, however you want to do this, the reason there is a moment on your karmic path that you are being awakened, that you go through this moment of realization, that certain information are being downloaded, or you being put on a path, on your path, they're putting specific people, situations, books, content, videos, for you to start this process of connecting the dots and thinking about these things. They do this for a reason. They don't just do it for you to have an awareness and then you can blame everything on the exact thing because now you understand the process, right? So you're going to blame your behavior because it's full moon, or you're going to blame your behavior, oh, because I'm avoidant, or you're going to blame your behavior, oh, because I have this wound. It's all great that you understand that. It's great that you understand the nature of human psyche, the wounds, the traumas, the triggers, the mirror effect, the fact that we live in a physical world and we live in a system of planets, and the positions of these planets influence the energy here, and the more we're tapped in, the more we actually respond, right? Because they serve a purpose. The lunar cycle, it all serves the purpose, the seasons, right? But knowing and understanding is not for you to shift the blame for who you are and how you do things for that, but to actually turn that table and start using those things for your benefit, ultimately to change and to transform. Change and transformation is the ultimate objective, right? And we talked about this in the video that I posted recently, just now, I think. And it's not about, the spirituality is about focusing on the self, but it's not about the self. It's for all of us to transform, to create a better life for others, for communities, for future generations, for our own transformation, right? So I invite you to really contemplate on it, because spirituality is not about understanding that because what happened to me in the past, I have a major mother wound. That mother wound is distorting my feminine energy within, whether you're man or woman, we all have feminine and masculine, which is causing me to be a people pleaser, which is causing me to be a doormat for others, which is causing me not loving myself, my body, my existence, not having that self-worth. It's great to know these things. It's again, a necessity to understand these mechanisms. But ultimately, what are you doing about it? So take a look back 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. What shadows you actually integrated? What is the actual major change and major transformation? And again, it's not a competition, it's not a race, right? It's a marathon, and the soul remembers that, because soul has all the time in the universe, right? Time is just an illusion, soul is eternal. So if you're not going to achieve certain things this lifetime, soul's going to give it another try, right? But despite the fact that we all have our own pace that is also directed by our own individual path and our karma, it doesn't mean that we can bypass it all and, call ourselves spiritual. Because again, I see this in so many people that they will say things like, oh, now we know all these things. I know all these things. I understand. And sometimes I look around, there's so many people that they don't understand, and they live this meaningless life and this autopilot, automated life. Well, yeah, honey, but what do you do with this knowledge? If you know, and I always say this, to whom much is given, much is expected. If you know, it means that your higher self, your spirit guides, your oversoul thought that you are ready to do something with that knowledge, to be the change, to show others that you can change, to show others that you can move from a place where you were a doormat, a people pleaser, and ball of anxiety, to someone who is confident, who loves themselves, who's like pumping with the life juice, life force energy, loving life, loving themselves, thriving. It's possible. You're meant to show the way. If you know, it's because there's a reason that you know. So contemplate on it today. It's my invitation for you to contemplate on what are you actually doing with this knowledge. Because this knowledge is not just about to sage your house and make sure that evil energy doesn't come. It's about building boundaries, building self-love, building more integrity, building strength, self-value, choosing every day little things to make yourself, your own life, and this world a better place.